Guys, today we are taking a look at Marquette basketball ahead of the 2024-25 season. And Coach Shaka Smart is entering his fourth season at the program. And last year they had a great season, 27-10, 14-6, which was second in the Big East. They went 2-1 in the Big East tournament before losing in the championship game to UConn, and then also 2-1 in the NCAA tournament before losing to Final Four Cinderella NC State. And it was a really good team. I wouldn't quite go as far as great team. And unfortunately, like Tyler Kolek kind of had some injuries towards the end of the season, which didn't derail the season, certainly, based off of their performance. But maybe if he had been fully healthy, the team could have gone a little bit further, just with some more, what's the word I'm looking for here? Cohesion, probably, with the team. They did lose Kam Jones earlier in the season to an ACL injury, so they weren't quite as deep as they would have liked to be in March Madness. But I still think it was a really good season for Coach Shaka Smart. And now, as they move into this season, it's gonna be. I'm very curious how they're going to make up for two key losses. And as we do in each one of these videos, we'll go through the roster. Then I'll give you my projected lineup in rotation, followed up with the schedule and my predictions for the regular season. So who's gone, who's back, and who's new with Marquette? Well, Tyler Kolek and Oso Ighodaro are both gone, and those were their two best players last season, along with Kam Jones. Those were the big three, if you will, on the team. Kolek led the country in assists per game. Oso Ighodaro was one of the better passing big men in the country. So those are two really big losses from a team that was really good last season, like I said. But who's back? Pretty much everyone else. The rest of the rotation, the key players are back. Kam Jones, my personal favorite player is Stevie Mitchell, David Joplin, Chase Ross, Ben Gold, and Sean Jones should be back either at the start of the season or maybe a few games in. His ACL injury was in January. So, with that being said, who's new? And this was really interesting to me. As far as I could tell, Marquette did not have a player transfer out. They did not have a player transfer in. And in today's college basketball world, that is very unusual. That is, I think there's maybe a handful of teams that may have had that. I haven't done the research, but there just seems to be, every team has somebody who's transferring out, and most teams have somebody who's transferring in. So they did bring in three freshmen. The first two are a pair of 6'8" forwards, just ranked inside the top 100, and they were high school teammates at Western Reserve Academy, Demarius Owen and Royce Parham. And then they also got Joshua Clark, who is not ranked on the big board, but he was they gave him like a 3-star rating on 24/7 Sports, and he is a 7-footer, which is important for a team that lost Oso Ighodaro. And I think at this point, it's a good time to start looking at the projected lineup and rotation. And I think some of it, the first 6 guys I think are pretty clear just based off of their roles last season. Kam Jones is the best player on this team. He is a really good scorer. He can pass a little bit. He's got good size for the position. And I think he's due for a really, really big season. I think Chase Ross steps into the starting lineup. He stepped into the starting lineup when Kolek was out last season. And I think that will continue. He'll get, around 25, 30 minutes this season. Stevie Mitchell and David Joplin retain their starting spots. Stevie Mitchell, like I said before, he's my favorite player on this team. If he can shoot the three a little bit better, I think he even has an outside chance to play at the next level. He's an outstanding defender, and he just makes a lot of winning plays. Joplin is a guy who's got good size for this team. He's about 6'7", over 200 pounds, and he can shoot it from the corners. pretty well. Like he made over 2 threes per game last season. And then Ben Gold, he's going to step in for Ighodaro. A couple of games that Ighodaro missed, Gold got the start. There was even one game, I believe it was against Villanova, where they actually started Ighodaro and Ben Gold. And Gold's an interesting player. He stretches the floor from that 5 spot. He can shoot the 3, and that gives you some spacing that you wouldn't necessarily expect to have from that position. And so you have a lineup with a lot of good shooting outside of I would argue Stevie Mitchell's not the best, but he does hit them. He made just under one attempt, over 40% last season. So they have actually, I take it back. Stevie Mitchell, I think, he's a better shooter than I gave him credit for. You got a lot of really good shooting in that lineup. Sean Jones is a guy who I project to come off the bench at least to start the season, but certainly could end up being, or should or could end up being the point guard, and you move Chase Ross to that 6-man role when he's healthy, because I think Sean Jones is the best passer left on this roster. And then the rest of the rotation, spots 7 through 11, I couldn't tell you. I'm very intrigued to see who ends up getting minutes here. The 2 guys from last season who are on the fringe of the rotation, Zayd Lowry and Trey Norman. And then the 3 freshmen, Demarius Owen, Royce Parham, and Joshua Clark, I think are all in contention to get rotation minutes there. And I think I've alluded to this, throughout the video. My biggest concern with this Marquette team, I love the shooting that they have. My biggest concern is losing Kolek and losing Oso Ighodaro. You've lost arguably the best passer in the country in Tyler Kolek and the best passing big man in Oso Ighodaro. And I just don't see that playmaking void. I haven't seen it filled. And it certainly could be that, guys that I don't necessarily expect, maybe a Stevie Mitchell, maybe Chase Ross. Like I said, I think Sean Jones is the guy who's probably going to fill in more of that playmaking. So maybe Sean Jones and Stevie Mitchell. But I'm curious, Marquette fans, like, how do you think that void is going to be filled on this year's team? Because that's the biggest question I have going into this season. Now, as we move into the schedule and predictions portion here, if you've enjoyed this video so far, please drop a like. It helps us grow. And look, the non-conference schedule for Marquette is not easy. They play on the road at Maryland. They have a home game versus Purdue, a neutral site game in the Bahamas against Georgia. They'll play at Iowa State in the Big 12 Big East Challenge. And they'll have a home game versus Wisconsin, and they'll go on the road to take on Dayton. So those are some tough games, non-conference games that Coach Shaka Smart has scheduled for Marquette. And I think that the non-conference schedule, I think that Iowa State game is going to be tough. I think they'll probably drop one of the 2 other road games at Maryland or Dayton, and I could see them stumbling one other game. So I got them going 8-3 in non-conference play. And the cool thing about the Big East, I said this in the St. John's video, is you play everybody twice. You get the home and away. And I love that in today's college basketball, where there's a lot of unbalanced schedules. And so with that being said, the playmaking concern is really big for me. And I have them a few games worse than last season. And last season, they did have some injuries. Like I mentioned, the Kolek, Ighodaro missed a couple games. Mitchell missed a couple games. So maybe this is a bit harsh, but I got them going 11-9, which would put them at 19-12, and I think that's right on the bubble. And like I said, this could be a bit harsh. I may be putting too much into the playmaking concerns, considering how good of a shooting team this is. But I think part of the reason that they were such a good shooting team is you had 2 really good passers that were putting guys in position to get open shots. And I'm not so certain that's going to happen this season. So I'm curious what you guys think. How do you think Marquette is going to fare in the 4th season with Shaka Smart, his first year without those 2 really good players in Tyler Kolek and Oso Ighodaro? And if you want to see me preview another team, drop it in the comments below. Subscribe for more great college basketball and then NBA draft content. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.